Hi, and welcome to the last in this series of videos with the amazing Sarah Turner. Today's video is all about diversity and inclusion in the workplace. And as you can see by the range of topics that we've covered in this series, it's quite incredible that we've ended up here at D&I, but it's very applicable for what Sarah does. She is an occupational psychologist and she has a background in HR and is now working as an executive and maternity coach. So we're talking a massive breadth of experience here. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, thank you for having me, Kate.
Oh, no, it's brilliant that you are here with us. So let's get straight on to D&I. So we're going to be talking about it very much within the sphere of menopause.
Yeah.
And D&I is often thought of as very specific areas and not a menopause issue. It's often seen, menopause is often seen as a well-being issue, and it is a well-being issue for the women involved. However, for an organisation, it is very much a D&I issue, because if you don't have an inclusive culture and you don't value diversity and you don't support women and provide them with well-being options, then women will leave, and it will mean that your diversity is impacted, your business is impacted, and the culture is impacted by an absence of amazing women within your workplace.
Absolutely, and I think you make a really good point there about it being both a well-being issue and a diversity and inclusion issue. And actually, I think the two are very intertwined, aren't they? And actually, when we think about culture and we talk about diversity and inclusion, we often talk about this term psychological safety, which was a term coined by Amy Edmondson, which is really about feeling safe to be able to speak up, to be my authentic self, to share what I think, to share what I feel, and to feel that those views are welcomed, that they're embraced, that it's safe for me to say what Sarah thinks and not be judged or kind of shot down for whatever it is that I'm sharing. And if I'm in a culture where it doesn't feel okay to be open and honest about the fact that I'm menopausal, maybe there's a lot of senior men in the organization for whom it's really uncomfortable, a taboo, embarrassing, don't want to go there, then I'm going to feel excluded. I'm going to feel that it's not okay for me to share what's going on for me right now, not to share the fact that I might be tearful, to share that I'm having a hot flush and I actually just need a moment. And that then means that we don't feel safe to be ourselves in that environment, and then that can trigger us. And so this is going back to kind of cavemen time and saber-toothed tiger, but when we don't feel safe, our systems physiologically, we are pre-programmed to respond in one of three ways: we fight, we flight, or we freeze. And if we're going to flight, that means I'm going to leave the organization. I'm gone, because I don't feel able to be me in this environment. And that's a problem.
It is a massive problem for organisations, especially at the moment where there is a massive lack of talent. There's a dearth of talent in the marketplace, and it's incredibly important for organisations to attract, recruit, and retain the best talent that's out there. So they need to look at every aspect of this to ensure that they are welcoming and retaining those women into their workforce. And I think those kind of what we call now microaggressions against women at this point in their career need to be looked at. So what is the banter? What are we saying? Listen out for the things that are being said, the sort of the jokes that are being bandied around,
the throwaway comments.
And it's in those tiny things that we kind of brush off that they give the flags. They tell women exactly what's expected of them and what's not acceptable, very importantly.
Yeah. So you have things like the unwritten rules of an organization. So it might be it's not okay to cry. It's not okay to be emotional. Actually, it's not okay to speak up. We don't really want to hear your views. Or if you say something, then a man's going to then follow up and say it again, but it's going to be listened to because the man said it. I mean, I've done some work with an organisation where actually we kind of did some listening circles with women, really wanting to understand their experience of working there. And then we played that back to the executive team, and they were quite astounded. They were quite astounded. And we did quote, we actually shared quotes of what their women were saying, and they were like, I can't believe that is our culture. Just not aware of those throwaway comments that just feel they've come from a good place, they're well intentioned, but actually the way they land is not the way they had intended it. And you don't know that unless that mirror is held up to you.
Yeah. And I think that many organisations, especially the large corporates or even the smaller organisations that are quite male dominated, they absolutely do not understand those comments that they're not absorbed in the way that they are by women. So men just throw them out there and think that they mean nothing, when actually women are listening out for whether they're welcome. They're listening out to hear whether there's a path for them to succeed. They're listening out to see how well they're accepted all the time. And these accumulate, they build up. I know that in one of my previous roles, it was an extremely stressful situation, and I had burst into tears in the HR director's office. It was incredibly stressful for the whole department, and it just happened. I burst into tears, and they told me that it was not acceptable to cry as a manager and that I had to stop immediately. Now, that says femaleness is not welcome. And I know that one of my friends who was menopausal was having a stressful time in her job, and a completely different organisation. She often cried. Her manager cried. And it was acceptable. It was almost like a pressure cooker release, that sometimes emotions slip out, and it was okay for that to happen as long as you didn't offend anyone. But it was okay. And because of that, they had huge staff retention and a very high female workforce. So, and they still do, by the way. But in the organisation that I worked in, I was told very clearly that was not acceptable.
And I remember, again, a previous role where we were running some menopause sessions, and I remember talking to one of the senior male leaders about it. We were having a conversation about something else, and then I said, "Oh, we've got this menopause session now. Are you going to come?" And his body sort of physically sort of recoiled. No, that's not for me. And instantly you kind of think, well, hang on a minute. I'm female and I'm of menopausal age. So how do I feel about that? And secondly, you're a leader and you've got senior women in your team. And if that's how you respond, well, no one's going to feel able to share how they're feeling.
No, and it's the one piece that many organisations forget, is that they need to specifically train and support their managers to support the women in their teams. And if they don't do that, what happens is that the awareness only goes across the bottom section of an organisation. And when women come for support, they hit a ceiling through which they cannot pass. And because of that, it means that, again, women are told that they are not welcome, because their managers are not taught how to manage them. And equally, if they're in that position, it says that there's nowhere for them to go, because the higher up the tree, the less it's tolerated.
And this comes back to things like data in organizations and really interrogating what's happening. So looking at who's joining, who's leaving, who's been promoted, when people are leaving, why they're leaving, and really kind of interrogating all of that to understand what's happening, not just from a menopause perspective, from all perspectives with a D&I lens, but for the purposes of this video, really understanding if women are leaving, what age they're leaving at, what's going on for them, and is their menopause anything to do with that? And therefore, what do we need to be doing within our organisation to change that?
Indeed, and I think we are, one of the issues that is one of the things that's often talked about is that 10% of all women leave employment altogether because of their menopause. And 25% of women consider leaving because of their menopause. So somewhere in the middle there is the truth, because if they're unable to come out and say, I'm menopausal and I need support, then on exit, they are not going to be discussing the fact that the reason they're leaving is because of their menopause. So unless organisations look at their data, then they go through completely unaware of what's actually going on, and they never learn. So it's really important that they use the data that they collate and that they have access to understand what's actually going on.
And there's something about, a bit like the listening circles that I did, however an organization might want to do that, whether it's through a feedback survey, whether it's listening circles, whether it's, exit interviews, maybe it's all of those things and others, is actually creating safe spaces for women to be able to articulate what's going on. Because my sense is that some women may not necessarily connect the two. They may just feel that they're stressed and they're exhausted, and just maybe they just can't do this anymore. Maybe I just need to leave and I need to do something different. And they might not necessarily connect the fact that the stress and exhaustion is actually menopause, and there are some things I can do about that. Because as we've talked about in previous videos, there's so many symptoms and the time of age of onset and all that kind of stuff. And so really supporting women, creating space for them to be able to share what's going on. And I know that's kind of some of the work that you do specifically would be around being that menopausal coach, being someone that women can go to and they can talk about what's going on.
Absolutely. And it is about creating that space to allow women to understand what they're going through, how to manage that, how to negotiate their position, and how to move forward and ensure that they continue along the lines that they wish to. And I think one of the points just before we go there is that because this goes on for a very, very long time and we aren't aware, quite frequently women take years to understand that this is their menopause. Years. Like 4 or 5 years. So it can be that women make very big decisions based on a sense of it not being right, of being unhappy, of it being exhausting or stressful, when actually that's their menopause. So it is part of drawing women into this space to ensure that they are supported and they continue in their careers.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I've heard stories of women leaving their marriages. Women make big decisions, don't they? Because it just feels too much. It feels unbearable, can't cope with it. So I need to make some difficult choices.
Absolutely. Without doubt, women make some very big decisions based on not being able to work out why they feel so awful. So I think to finish on a sort of positive point, or at least a point where people feel that they can gain control of this, it is very much about, you need to listen to the language that you're using within your organization and ensure that it is welcoming to women and supportive to women, to ensure that women actually feel that there is a safe and positive place for them to be in the workplace. And also to ensure that women are given the support that they need as they go through this.
And I think that your point about the line manager piece is a really important one, and one that's probably often overlooked, and it's overlooked from a maternity coaching perspective as well. Women need support at these times, through these phases in their lives, and line managers need to be equipped to be able to have those conversations.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. Thank you so much, Sarah. It has been incredible. Please go back, look at all the other videos. They are amazing, and ensure that you subscribe, and I will see you soon.
Thanks very much, Kate. Great to be here.
Bye.
Bye.